Hi guys, so this video is going to be the first of what will be several videos about the business end of being a reborn artist. I just have my cuddle baby Peaches right here so you guys have something to look at while I'm talking. Okay, so in this video I'm going to cover where to sell and how to get paid basically. So I'm going to talk about the how to get paid first. And then when I talk about where to sell, I'll talk about those payment platforms with those places. Okay, so the first payment platform that almost everybody knows about is PayPal. I personally do not use PayPal. Most of the artists, if not all of them that I know well, they're not taking PayPal anymore. They are moving away from PayPal, kind of for a variety of reasons. You know, PayPal, I want to do the pluses first, I guess. PayPal is definitely the most recognized way to get paid. Customers are very familiar with PayPal. A lot of them, like with now that scammers are so prevalent, a lot of people tell customers the only way to pay is with PayPal, or if it's not PayPal, it's a scam. So that can be kind of tricky to overcome if you're not accepting PayPal. I haven't accepted PayPal for years. I don't have any issues, but it is very recognized. Some of the issues with PayPal is customers can very easily do chargebacks for any reason, and PayPal almost always sides with the buyer. So even if you say that you don't accept returns, even though you're selling a handmade item, which is supposed to be exempt from returns, PayPal does not care. They will usually side with the buyer and take your money. Another con is that they can hold your money for a long time. Actually, I'll tell you very briefly, the reason I personally don't use PayPal is my husband had a reselling business several years ago. He did very well. He fixed up electronics and sold them, and he used PayPal. He had about $12,000 in his PayPal account, and they closed his account with no explanation. He was like a star seller on eBay. He had never had a complaint, a dispute filed, nothing for years. He did this. PayPal gave no explanation, and he talked to numerous managers. They basically said, we don't know why it was closed, but it's closed. There's nothing we can do about it. And it took them 12 months to send him a check for the funds that were in his PayPal account. And that right there scares the crap out of me. I will never, ever use PayPal for a sale. And I should say, actually, I do have a PayPal account that I use to make purchases from certain places that only accept PayPal. But I will never, ever get a payment from a baby in PayPal just because of his experience. And not only that, but with my artist friends, I cannot even tell you how many horror stories I've heard of funds getting held, refunding the customer without them having to send the doll back. Just a lot of issues. So I personally do not recommend PayPal. Another payment platform is Stripe. That is a back-end payment processor. You can do invoices with it. You can send payment links. It is not something a customer gets an account. It is not a peer-to-peer money sending app. It's for businesses. I do have a Stripe account, and I only use it on one selling platform that I use that you can use Stripe as your payment method, or the payment method customers can pay with. I'm like, I don't know how to word that quite right. The only issues I've had with Stripe are kind of a big issue, but the amount they deposit into my checking account is never the amount that it should be. You know, they'll say it's like 3% for processing. If the customer pays with Afterpay, it's 6%. But then they'll send me a deposit that's usually between $50 and $100 less than it should be based on the percentages. And I have a very hard time getting customer service, but that has happened to me every time. So I'm not a huge fan of Stripe for that reason, but I do still have it. I do still accept it. There are a lot of peer-to-peer money sending apps that are not for businesses. That would be Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. It's essentially like a customer handing you cash. From a buyer's or from a seller's standpoint, that's great, right? A customer can't file a chargeback or anything because technically they shouldn't when they're doing it peer-to-peer, just like when they pay with PayPal friends and family instead of goods and services. It's not necessarily geared towards purchasing merchandise. It's geared towards sending your friends money, splitting a bill at a restaurant and reimburse, that kind of stuff. So they don't have a ton of protections for sellers because of that. Those are the apps that scammers use. So if you say, I only accept Cash App or Zelle or Venmo, only peer-to-peer cash sending apps, unless you have a very good reputation and are very well known, customers are going to take pause because they know that they're not protected if they send you money that way. I personally, I don't accept those payment methods. I don't even want it to be a question. I want customers to know if they buy from me, if, that they're covered for things they legally should be covered for. The one that I use that is my absolute favorite, I've used it for many years, is Square. Square is like Stripe. It is a back-end payment processor. Customers do not need an account. Square is getting a lot more popular. Many of you have probably heard of it. I would hope. They have I don't know. I think they're at 5 million users or something. If you've ever eaten at a mom and pop restaurant, a florist, any small business, and you've paid with a credit card, you've likely already used Square and you just didn't even know. The customer would never know that they're paying with Square. It would just be like going to any other website and checking out, entering their credit card number. They can also pay with Google Pay, Afterpay, stuff like that. They have a lot of payment options. They are only for small businesses. If you're a sole proprietor, if you don't have to have necessarily an EIN, you can use your social security number, but it is not for sending money to your friends. It is only for taking business payments. You can link it to your website, which is how I have mine, but you can also send invoices or payment links. It's really easy. They have very low fees. I've never ever had an issue with a chargeback or anything. I do know one of my close friends did have one issue with a customer tried to do a chargeback through their credit card company. They said it wasn't as described and it seemed like a typical kind of buyer's remorse situation. They sent her a message right after saying they loved the baby, and then a week later they did a chargeback. And their chargeback was denied. She submitted proof showing that she had shipped the doll. The doll was a handmade item. They instantly denied it. They didn't take money out of her account or put it on hold or anything. And they have really good customer service. You can just chat and it's, you got customer service right away. This isn't a paid endorsement, but I really love Square. I recommend it to all of my friends. I recommend it to any new artists when they're asking what payment method they should accept. Another huge thing, which I'm just going to touch on because I'm going to cover this in another video, but Square will also give you a free website. And they are like a full small business platform, and they do have, you can pay to get upgraded benefits. I have the free version. I've always had the free version. It gives me everything that I need. I have a comprehensive website. I'll put it in the description and you guys can see what all is included with the Square website. I can have more pages, but it just has everything that I need. But I really like that your website is automatically linked to your Square. You add an item to Square if someone buys it off of your website. Like, it is totally streamlined. They tell you you have an order. They pay, like, I don't even know most of the time until I get a notification that I got an order and it's already paid, ready to ship. So they're really great, and I love their website and how it's linked with your inventory, shipping rates, all of that kind of stuff. It's very, very convenient. So those are the main ways to get paid. I'll also put my Square referral link in the description. You could get $1,000 in free processing if you sign up through the link. If you're not signed up though, I would recommend it if you're wanting to sell, if you're wanting to move away from PayPal, or you just want to check it out. I've never heard of a single person having a negative experience with them. So now I'm going to talk about where to sell your babies. And there are a ton of places you can sell your babies, but not a ton of great places to sell your babies. The absolute biggest place to sell is reborns.com. The S at the end is very important. Reborn.com is a scam site, so make sure you go to reborns.com. I would say that is the most recognized website to buy reborn dolls from. It has been around since, almost since the beginning of Reborn Dolls. It's been around a long time. It has really great brand recognition. All customers know it. People always tell people when they ask, where can I buy a reborn doll? They say reborns.com. There are a lot of artists on reborns.com, so there is a lot of competition for sure. But overall, it's a good, safe place to sell. I think it is $30 a month. There's no limit on the amount of items you can list, but you pay a $30 a month flat fee. You can list as many babies as you want. You can pay extra to have them featured. I'm kind of hesitant to go into too many site specific things right now because the owner has been doing a whole bunch of upgrades and changes, so I don't want to say something and have it get changed. But as of right now, that is the way that it works. You can do photos, you can put a link to a video. One huge thing that people complain about with that site is that your photos cannot be watermarked. You're not supposed to have anything that makes it recognizable as your nursery. For instance, a nursery logo or a picture frame or anything with your nursery logo in it, they don't want you to have, which I think really kind of sucks, because a lot of times you'll ask somebody, oh, where did you buy your baby? They'll say reborns.com. They don't know who the artist is. They just think that they bought it at reborns.com. They don't realize that reborns.com is like eBay without auctions, basically, that it is all different sellers, selling their specific items. And so sometimes that gets lost, and that's kind of a bummer because you want your nursery to stand out. But it is a legitimate, safe place to sell. Another one, which is a newer site that I'm also registered on, is onlyreborns.com. I know the girl who started it. She actually is at Snugabug Nursery, is her nursery name, and she is super sweet. She really wanted a safe, artist-run website to sell on that encourages watermarked photos. The biggest reason for that is because scammers steal photos. So if they can remove watermarks, but usually they'll go for unwatermarked photos first because they're easiest. They don't have to mess with them. So it is artist owned and operated. It has a ton of features for listing. And I should have gotten this first. I'll look it up and put it up on the screen. I can't remember how much it is. I just paid for a full year, like when she first launched it. The downsides to it are that it is a newer site, so it does not get as much foot traffic as reborns.com at all. A lot of it is dependent on us promoting it. There are no necessarily direct payments, but you can post your payment links. So whether you use Square or PayPal or Stripe, if you create a payment link, you can put the payment link in there, but it's more of an advertising space. You can have a portfolio, all of that kind of stuff. Casey, the owner, she's just super sweet, but she wants it to be as great of a selling platform as it can be. She's open to suggestions to make it better. She's added a lot of features that artists have requested. And she also is working with Reborns, I think Irresistibles, and maybe McPherson's, I can't remember. But they are sending out like promotional material with every order so that more artists become aware of it. And basically it's like any other new site. The more artists that sell on it, the more artists will be directing customers to it, and then hopefully the name will be more and more recognized, but that takes time. So if you need like super quick sales and you don't do any self-promotion and you want to join only Reborns, you might also want to list on another selling platform. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with listing on multiple selling platforms. I just want to add that in right now. Most of us do, and you just want to make sure if your item sells that you quickly go in and delete it right away from other platforms. Another place to sell is Etsy. I actually, when I first started, I sold on Etsy. I've sold on Etsy for years. I have hundreds of sales on Etsy. I no longer list on Etsy. Well, that's not true, I guess. I occasionally list on Etsy. I try not to. Unfortunately, Etsy has totally been taken over by cheap Chinese crap. It used to be like all handmade items. Now it is very, very hard to search through and actually find a true handmade item. Not only that, but they have increased their fees tremendously. The last baby that I sold on Etsy, they took almost $300 in fees. Yes, you heard that right. Almost $300 freaking dollars. And I was like, I'm not selling here anymore. So I try not to sell on Etsy. My sales on Etsy had really slowed down. With all of the counterfeits and everything that have flooded Etsy, it's your stuff, it just doesn't get seen very much because they have to go through hundreds of pages. And I was a star seller on Etsy, so I have a higher viewing than someone that would just be coming in brand new to Etsy, and I still couldn't get, my stuff wasn't getting viewed hardly ever. Another oldie and not so goodie anymore is eBay. When I first started Reborning, everybody sold on eBay. It was all the rage. If you wanted Reborns, you bought them from eBay. That was the place to sell. Like Etsy, eBay is now flooded with counterfeits. And not only counterfeits, but every single factory doll, they call it a reborn now. So it is almost impossible for customers to even find your work. I have a few artist friends that have been reborning for very long, since way before there were even reborn kits. They still sell on Etsy or on eBay out of habit, but they tell me they have an extremely hard time selling. They're all looking for new sales platforms because nothing is selling on eBay anymore. And eBay has, like Etsy, has raised their fees a tremendous amount. Another place to sell is Mercari, and I feel like that is getting a little bit more popular. I personally would not sell on Mercari, and I'm going to tell you why. Mercari has 100% buyer protection. No, it does not matter what your policies are. If a customer says they don't like the item, they get their money back. Mercari doesn't pay them their money back. They take the money from you and give it back to the customer. With buyer's remorse, with dishonest people that try to get a doll and do a chargeback so that they get a free doll, Mercari is a terrifying place for a small business owner to sell, and I would not sell on Mercari. I would buy on Mercari in a heartbeat, but I would not sell on Mercari at all. Another place to sell is on like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, those kind of places. It's basically just advertising. You're saying, hey, I have this thing for sale. People do look through it. I feel like reborns are kind of a niche thing. So maybe if people are looking specifically for reborns and they're specifically looking on those sites, they would find it. But I don't think a ton of people just browsing Marketplace are going to go, oh, whoa, look at, there's a reborn doll. How weird. Let's buy that. But I don't have any personal experience selling on Marketplace, so I can't share a lot about it. I do know a few people who have tried to that haven't, their items haven't sold. But I'm sure there are success stories out there. Kind of like with, I guess, Craigslist also, you know, they're not taking payment. You're saying, hey, I have this for sale, and then you're sending them an invoice or whatever and shipping it. So same thing. The last place to sell, which again, I'm gonna do a video on this, so I'm just gonna touch on it, but it's selling directly on your own website. I already told you guys I have my own website. I built it through Square. It's linked to Square. I get a lot of direct website purchases, but it is really important to remember that is not because people are Googling reborn doll and my website's coming up and they're finding it. I mean, I doubt that anyways. Most of it is because I promote myself a lot. I'm active on social media. Every time I have a doll for sale, I list the link to my website as how they would purchase that doll. Because of that, I have a lot of people that regularly check my website for new dolls. So because of that, I do get a lot of direct website sales. Those are my favorite type of sales. I get a notification, you have an order. I'm not doing like, you know, Facebook Messenger back and forth asking for 1,000 more photos and videos and all this extra stuff that I already had in my listing. So for me, that is my favorite way to sell. It's also the absolute cheapest for me. I don't need to pay for advertising or pay for a listing or anything like that. All I have to pay are my payment processing fees, which are very low. So your own website is a great place to sell. A lot of work though goes into getting people to go to your website on their own. But I still really recommend that you have a website. I'm going to go over kind of things in my next video all about building your own website, what's important to have, all of aesthetics, you know, all that kind of good stuff. But if you do have your own website and you start building your following on, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, like you really, the more you build your following up, the more traffic you'll get to your website. Even if somebody doesn't buy a doll right then, if they see your link, they go to your website, they'll sign up for your newsletter and you can notify them when there's new dolls available. I have really great sales. I really recommend that even if you're listing on one of these other sales platforms, that you should create your own website, especially if you can create it through Square or something where it's free. You don't have to pay for hosting. the only thing you have to do is set it up. I think it adds to your legitimacy as a small business, and it's really great to be able to direct customers there. All right, you guys, I think that is it. So I hope that someone found that helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.